Hello everyone, my name is Christian. Welcome back to my hobby blog. Today I'm really excited because I have finished Zou and I'm finally ready to do the video for it. And although I'm almost done with Whole Cake Island, I was going back and forth about doing this arc along with Whole Cake, but there's so much to talk about with Zou and also Whole Cake separately that I was kind of like, okay, let's not do that. There's a lot of episodes in Whole Cake Island, and a lot that happens in Zou leads directly into Whole Cake Island. So that's why I was kind of going back and forth about doing a video. And finally I was like, okay, let's just go ahead and do Zou on its own. So, oh my god, I absolutely loved this arc. I think this is going to be one of my favorite smaller arcs. I don't think it's better than one of the longer arcs like Marineford or Dressrosa or Whole Cake Island, for example. But I really loved everything that happened within the story. And right away, in the first episode, we get a lot of catch-ups with other characters. We see CP0 investigating Dressrosa, and we hear that Zou is supposed to be a land of tragedy, which is really interesting. And they're investigating Dressrosa while it's being restored, so that's good. We're seeing the country kind of building back up. And then King Rico talks about the Reverie, which is the world government meeting coming up. And we see statues of Usopp and Luffy being built on Dressrosa, which is a lot of fun. I really, really like that. I really loved actually seeing that because it's kind of like the first big show of appreciation for Luffy and the Straw Hats, and especially Usopp because he's God Usopp, or God Usopp in Dressrosa for the Tontatans. So I really, really loved seeing those statues. And then we see Fujitora and Sengoku traveling during a really bad storm. And Suru is watching a prisoner and ends up being Doflamingo. And I was actually kind of shocked that Doflamingo was not just immediately executed. But I see now that it's probably better to just have him alive and around. But I think for me, I would have definitely have executed him and tried him and, made sure he or all his victims received the justice that they needed, but also giving him, the execution that he deserves, because I don't think he is worthy of being alive anymore. I think he's a really, really terrible and just awful person. And him not being around anymore, I think, is just a smart idea. But Doflamingo mentions many different powerful people, and he says that the D family, so we know a few characters. We have Monkey D. Luffy, we have Doflamingo, I believe he's part of the D family, or he knows a lot about them. I'm trying to remember everyone who has D in the name. Gold Diwajo, Ace, or what was his name? Ace D, or D-Ace something, or Portgas D-Ace. I had to remember his full name. But we've met a few D family members, and he says that they're working in the shadows of history, and he says to the Celestial Dragons that there's an empty seat in the pirate realm. And we see another ship show up with a character named Captain Jack, who is the second to Kaido, who is one of the Yonko, if you've forgotten. And we also get an update with all of the bounties, with all of our crew. So we have Law at 500 million, Luffy is at 500 million, Zoro is at 320, Robin is at 130, Frankie 94 million, Usopp 200, which is actually a big deal, because he is very powerful in his own way, but traditional power, he is definitely not one of those type of characters. And so it's really funny to kind of see him go beyond Sanji and beyond Nika Robin, who is sort of has a much deeper history of sort of her bounties meaning a lot. So it's really fascinating to see that Usopp is now becoming like a much bigger sort of figure within the Straw Hats. So we also see Chopper at 100 million, Sanji's at 177 million, and on his bounty, everyone else it says alive or dead. On his it says only alive, which is really interesting. That comes in later. Nami is at 66 million, Chopper 100, as I said, Book 83. So we have a lot of really fun sort of bounty totals now. And I should have done the math, but I think altogether they're about 2 billion combined, which is really fun. But we see Hell hitting the ship, and Bartolomeo calls Grandma, and we hear a word about a warlord named Edward Weevil, who is the son of Whitebeard, and apparently he has knocked out all of the Whitebeard pirates, and there's 600 casualties, is sort of the last remaining of the Whitebeard pirates. And then we see a giant mountain the Straw Hats are approaching, and Law's Viva card that is going to Beppo, I believe his name is, the little panda pirate. He's actually a really fun character. The Viva card is pointing to that mountain, so everyone's just kind of like, okay, go for that mountain. And they get closer, and it ends up that Zoe is actually a giant elephant, and it's like many skyscrapers tall, and it's just this 1,000-year-old elephant we hear later, and he's moving across the water, and it's just, I loved it. I loved all of it. I really love elephants, of course, and I love animals, but elephants, I think, are like this sort of sacred. I don't know, to me. Like, I really, really love elephants. And I really enjoyed seeing that Zoe was actually a really ancient alien just trudging across the oceans. Like, it was just fun. But we hear about this mink tribe, and they absolutely hate humans. They've been on the elephant for 1,000 years. But the Straw Hats find the Sunny ship, and Kanjiro, now that he's part of the crew with the Wano samurai, Kinemon and Momonosuke, he draws a dragon with his magical paintbrush, and it's not that strong. He should have maybe drawn it a little bit bigger. But he draws the dragon, and it comes alive out of the ship, out of the drawing. And it's this really goofy looking, like paper, like comic looking dragon. And they all get on it, and Kinemon and Kanjiro, I believe, and Momonosuke is with Luffy, or maybe it's all of the Wano people together. They're on a different dragon, and they're going up a different leg. And they take a good amount of time to get up onto the surface of Zoe. And I really enjoyed seeing sort of this dragon getting everyone up, and just everyone's just kind of like sitting there on the dragon. I'm sitting there like, why don't you guys just get off the dragon, or like half of you get off, because Sanji could easily just jump all the way to the top of Zoe. Luffy could have jumped up there, but it was really funny. It was a really funny imagery, seeing this poorly drawn dragon that's really skinny, and he's just doing his best trying to climb this elephant leg. And I really, really enjoyed that section. But we see a little scene in Baltigo, which is where the Revolutionary Army is, that Ivankov is also a part of. I wanted to mention them because they're awesome, and I want to make sure that everyone knows that I haven't forgotten about them because they're awesome. But Dragon is there, and he's warning about CP0, and he heads and maybe there's a typo in here, but I'm just going to read it straight, and heads a special ore called Drunken Iron Ore, which is interesting. I need more information about that. I just need more information about Dragon as the father of Luffy. Like, there's so much information that I want to know about that. And he asks about Nico Robin, which is really interesting. And he says to his second to call back all of the commanders. And after that scene, we see Blackbeard's crew and Lafitte hearing a message from Burgess, who was in Dressrosa, and we hear him and Shiryu saying that he's on the ship of Dragon, and he knows where the Revolutionary Army is at. So next we see another little scene with Weevil, as I mentioned earlier, that he's the son of Whitebeard. And he says that he's looking for Marco and the rest of the pirates of his crew. And he says that Luffy may know where he is and all of them. And he's talking to his mom, Miss Bakken, who I don't really know anything about. I assume we'll get more info about her later. We see a really, really fun little snippet of Buggy, one of my favorite villains in the series. He is at Buggy Town, and he is now a warlord in the ocean. So I really, really enjoy that. I'm happy to see that he's moving up in the world, even if he doesn't feel as if he deserves it. I really love his character arc, where he's constantly sort of building this house of cards, like, illusion about how powerful he is and how he always has things in control, but he's really just really lucky. And I really love that. I love that type of character, and it's just a lot of fun to see him. But Kinemon says that he is at Zou because looking for Raizo along with Kanjiro. Or he's looking for Raizo, and he'd already found Kanjiro, and that's when something falls from the sky. And what is it? It ends up being a small monkey called, not Baratie, but Baratie or something like that. It's a really similarly spelled name as Baratie, so that's why I keep saying Baratie. But that's the ship that Sanji was serving on, so I don't want to say that. But he hits Kanjiro and Kinemon, which knocks him off the dragon, and Ryunosuke is having trouble climbing up. Until they reach the top, and he returns to being a drawing. So the dragon did have a name, Ryunosuke, and he returned back to being a drawing on the surface of the dragon. And we see a gate with Makomo Dukedom on it, and Luffy is excited because he's on the back of a whale, or not a whale, but the back of an elephant. And then as he's enjoying and just sort of declaring his love for this area, he sees this whale tree, which is really cool. It's this giant, like, mountain, basically. That's this tree, and this whale is, like, supporting the tree. It's like a, I don't know, Yggdrasil type of situation. I'm not sure. But we see the gate is destroyed, and Luffy jumps into the forest, and he finds an abandoned town. And we see mysterious animal attackers, and the names are Carrot and Wani. And Carrot is just such a fun character. I really love the character of Carrot. And Wani, and they both ride a crocodile, and they're part of the mink tribe. And Usopp notices Carrot because she has Nami's bra on, which is interesting because they're like, hey, like, we've been looking for Nami. She's supposed to be here with Beppo. And, like, her clothes are being worn by other people. Like, did she get killed? And I didn't think that at all. I just thought, like, oh, she has more clothes. Like, she doesn't just have that bra. But, they warn about the Guardians, and it ends up being 2 Guardians on the island, and I will get into them more later. But, Trafalgar Law has a beaver called a Beppo the Panda, as I said. And Beppo was actually born on this island, which is really fun. And Luffy is fighting a lightning animal named Roddy. And Beppo recognizes Luffy, and Wanda introduces herself to Luffy. And Beppo catches Luffy up about protecting him during Marineford, or post-Marineford. And we also see Kurao City, and it's destroyed. And it has torture devices scattered all throughout. And Zoro, Law, Frankie, and Robin find these torture devices. And Robin says that the country was ruined 2 weeks ago by Captain Jack, by Kaido's second, which is really interesting. And next episode, we start with a big water rain eruption. which basically floods the entire back of the elephant. He just takes out his trunk with all the water and he just splashes it, washes himself. And it's a regular thing. The minks have found a way or a system to work around this. And Kanjiro and Kinemon are writing a really big cat drawing, which is so much fun. And they're on the other leg after falling off the first leg. So we see them coming back up the leg, which is fun. But we see Robin. She mentions that the aqueduct is being refilled and talks about Nekonomanshi, who is king of the forest. And it's a cat. It has the word of Neko in the beginning. So Neko means cat in Japanese. So I really enjoyed Neko Nomosuke, or I'm just going to call them Neko from now on. I really enjoyed this character a lot. They had a lot more information about everything than I thought they would. A lot more lore that they knew, just so much. And Usopp is freaking out about Luffy being captured. And Luffy hears screaming while on the boat, and we get a flashback of someone scary on this like torture board that's like an X. And like the arms are tied up and the legs are tied up at the bottom of the X. And Law teleports everyone together, and they go to the hidden village, which Wanda takes them to. And at that village, Nami and Chopper discover that it's basically Party City because everyone's shouting Gancho since they're part of the Mink Kingdom. And Nami tackles Luffy to the ground and says Sanji and then Brook, and says he's not friendly with the Minks and wants not to mention Wano as samurai. Like, there's a lot of things that the Minks don't like. And it's really interesting what happens later in the arc. But some dog minks show up, which is a lot of fun. And they immediately start chewing on Brook, who is a skeleton. So he has a lot of tasty bones on him. And it was just a lot of fun to see all the dogs sort of come out and start chewing on him. And he's like, get out of here. And I don't know, it's just fun. But we are introduced to Big Mom's singing ship. And Nami talks about it a little bit, and we get introduced to this new West Generation pirate named Capone Beige, or Beige. Beige, I think they said in the anime. But Chopper throws Caesar in the flashback far away, and then Sanji punches all the cannonballs from the singing ship and blasts it to Big Mom's ship before they all escaped. So they narrowly escaped Big Mom. And so that was really interesting because we're on the way to Big Mom. But first we need to find Rizo. So it's been about 10 days since the country has been ruined by Captain Jack, and there's been two rulers who have sort of stepped up. We have Duke Inuashi, who is the king for the day. He's like this dog person. And we also have the other one who I mentioned, Neko Mamushi, who is a king for the night, who is a cat. Cats can see in the night, so perfect logic. Good job, Oda. Law is reunited with his crew, and we get to see Fortress White Flank, which is I'm not sure exactly what Fortress White Flank is, but I have it capitalized. But it's been about 17 days since the bell of raiding rang. And the name of the elephant on Zou is actually Zumesha. And there's a guy by the name of Rizo, who we know is the Wano samurai. He is on Zou. So that's a big reveal because there was a lot of sort of tension around was all of the Wano samurai. Kinemon was the first one we saw. Then we had to track down his son, Momo. And then we had to find Kanjiro. And then now we're trying to find Rizo. And once all four of them are back together, then we can go back to Wano and try to figure things out. But we get a flashback of some raiding, and we see Kaido, who's actually a zone fruit mammoth, which is one of the rarest devil fruits. And he's second in command to Kaido, as I said. He's part of the 3 calamities, which is really interesting. And we're also introduced to a character named Sheepshead, who's headliner of the Gifters, which, if you don't remember what the Gifters are, the people who receive the smile fruits that Caesar was making on Punk Hazard. And we're also introduced to Jinwami. They fight all the minks, and we see the minks actually have electricity power. And so that they're able to keep a fight going for many days. And eventually they propose a talk, but Jack refuses and fights break out. We're introduced to this character by Shishilian, who thanks Luffy for saving the country, because Luffy shows up and just kind of beats away everyone and saves the minks. And we're introduced to Inuashi on screen, and he mentions that Caesar's poison weapon, the purple smoke that we saw in Punk Hazard, has been used on the island, and he was part of Neko's crew. And we get a big reveal because Luffy is wearing Shanks' hat, the straw hat. And Neko is like, oh yeah, like, is that Shanks' hat? Like, I know Shanks, and my head, like, exploded, because we don't get anything with Shanks in this series, I feel like. And any mention of Shanks that we get, I have to note it down. So this was really exciting for me. And he knows Shanks, and Neko and Inuashi talk about how they don't like each other, because, you know, cat and dog, fun. We get a flashback of Captain Jack demanding Rizo, looking for Rizo. And we're introduced to the 3 musketeers who Shishilian is part of, which is really fun. I didn't write down the names. I didn't think they were that important, but they were fun. I want to at least give them a mention. But Inuashi shows up to tell them to search the island. He has nothing to hide, and that they won't resist. And Jack attacks them, but Inuashi blocks it. And we learn that Jack's bounty is 1 billion bellies, which is interesting. It's the highest bounty we've heard. And we hear Neko wake up, and she and the Guardians come down to fight Jack, which is fun. I really love it. They suplex him. That was that was quite unexpected, but, you know, welcome. And they say that no samurai are allowed on this island. And Neko says they're going to wait for the new era that Luffy is eventually going to bring in. I'm just loving all of these characters. I love Neko. I love Inuashi. Jack is a lot of fun. Really powerful. We get revealed that Jack ate an ancient elephant fruit, and one of the ancient zone fruits, which is really rare. And he's the only one not defeated after 4 days of fighting with Law's crew. And then the poison gas is released, which paralyzes basically the entire city. And we see the 2 rulers, Inuashi and Neko, were put on the torches, X things that I mentioned earlier. And Nico says that he'll get revenge on Jack eventually, which is fun. Jack then leaves the island momentarily because he hears that Doflamingo was defeated. So he's like, oh no, like, I need to check out what that's about. And we see a flashback of Brook and Nami arriving on Zoe and then being attacked by Sheepshead. And while confronting Caesar about the poison gas, the flood comes back in. Caesar clears the poison while Sanji rescues Nami, but she starts fighting Wanda, who is told by one of the minks that all the humans have left. And we're introduced to one of my favorite side characters in this arc. And it's this guy named Pedro. And he's this cougar guy, samurai. He's like this one-eyed cat. And he's just so much fun. I really, really love that character. More on him in the next video, because I have a lot of thoughts about him. But Chopper is working with the minks to wake everyone up from the paralysis. We learn that Zoe is actually a phantom island because none of the log poses point towards him. And that's because he's a living being. There's no way for log poses to track him. And then we get one of Big Mom's leaders, Peckham's. We get a flashback about him, and he's from Zoe. So that's an answer, or question answered. And he is pissed that the island is all messed up. He is just really upset about it. Nami and Sanji reunite while Caesar is giving away drugs to everybody to help them wake up from the paralysis, and he has an identity crisis, which is a lot of fun. He goes by the name of Cedo instead of Caesar, which I thought was which is just really funny. I really liked it. But he reveals that he scammed Big Mom a lot. Caesar did. And that's why Doflamingo protected him, basically, and supporting him and making sure that no one knew about Punk Hazard. So, and then we get Sanji and Brook meeting Peckham's and Capone, and Peckham's thanks them for saving the island and asks to return Caesar so he can lie to Big Mom that the Straw Hats got away. And suddenly, out of nowhere, he is just shot a ton of times in the back by Capone, and his chest opens up, and it ends up that he's eaten the castle fruit, and a ton of goons just jump out of his body and immediately start attacking. It's a lot of fun. I really enjoy that power, the castle fruit. He has a 300 million bounty, so he's really powerful. Sheep's Head shows up with Nami and Chopper, both captured, which prompts Caesar to be revealed by Capone. They have a meeting inside Capone, and he extends an invitation to Big Mom's tea party, which is revealed to be the context around this tea party is that there's a big wedding going on. And who are involved in the wedding? It is Sanji as the groom and Big Mom's daughter as the bride, which is what the fuck? I had zero idea that this was coming. I didn't think we would ever get flashbacks of Sanji. I didn't think there would be anything deeper in his storyline than this. And it ends up that he is part of the Vinsmoke family, which we haven't really gotten any information about. This is the first time that we've really gotten the name of Vinsmoke. And he's the third son, so he's not even the oldest. He's not even the only son. So there's a lot of history that we're going to be learning about. And I've already learned about it because I'm almost done with Whole Cake Island. But, oh my god, I am just loving Sanji's arc in these two arcs. But, Brook's spine gets a bunch of shivers randomly while he hears this information. Because to get into East Blue, you basically have to go from the North Blue, and you have to voyage through the Red Line. So it's a long distance between the two. And he's like, how did Sanji get all the way here? So that's interesting. Everyone is captured secretly by Capone within his body, and Sanji is almost put into a fight with him. And we're introduced to this character named Beto, who is okay. I think he's fine. Sanji makes a decision to leave in order to save everybody, and he says he never expected his family matters to bleed over, which is interesting, because what family matters does he have? And then we see Neko showing up, and Capone lies about not shooting Peckham's to him. And the next episode starts, and we have Brook singing a fun song about meeting Neko. Nami updates the crew on the info about Sanji and the bride, who is Big Mom's daughter. And they go to the well tree. The wedding is being planned by Sanji's father, who's apparently really infamous in the underworld. And Peckham's mentions Gemma 66, which we've gotten a few mentions of in the series. And they're also known as the Warmongers, and they're a mythical assassin organization, according to Nami. I wrote in my notes. Which is led by him. So he's really dangerous. We don't really know anything about him yet. But Peckham says there's no way to ignore the wedding because it's a political one in order to merge both of the families, the Big Mom family and the Vinsmoke family. And Neko and Law shows up with the Hot Pirates. The Hot Pirates are Law's pirates. And they have a big banquet, and Law and Luffy discuss plans. And Kinemon and Kanjiro finally climb the leg. After I don't know how many episodes, they finally climbed the leg of Sumesha. And the monkey mink, whose name is Bariete. I found the name finally, Bariete, and the monk Bariete tells him that Wano samurai are here to the rest of the minks, which causes a huge fuss. They ring the bell of raiding, and the samurai coming. Everyone's freaking out on the island. Momo reunites with his father and Kanjiro. Nami and the crew stop the samurai from revealing themselves, but they reveal themselves anyways because they're not happy about the anti-Wano sentiment going on this island. And Kinemon introduces himself and says, "Where the hell is Waizo? Like, we need to find him. He's important." And he and Kanjiro sit down, and we find out that Waizo is actually safe and is on the island of Zou. And the Kazuki family from Wano are friends with the Zou people, so it's like, okay, great. Like, I wish they knew this a lot sooner. Momo scolds the two rulers for acting as if they hated each other because that caused a lot of pain and just strife that he did not think was worth going through. And Kinemon mentions that Momo is actually the heir to the Daimyo family and the Kazuki clan, and that his dad's name is Odin. Which is really fascinating because I'll get more into it in a second. But they go up the big well tree and they find a secret door and they go in, they go to the bottom, and they find Waizo there at the bottom, and he is just the funnest of the samurai in my opinion. He has so many fun powers, and he talks about how well, they go down there and they find him, but behind him is a red poneglyph, which is the first time we've seen any like that. And it has a Kazuki sigil on it, which is interesting. And everyone demands Waizo to show his different ninja techniques because he's the Wano samurai. He knows how to do it. And we haven't really seen any of it. And he has this special, like, shadow sort of thing. And he does a bunch of Naruto sort of jutsus, which was a lot of fun. It was just so much fun to see him going and naming all these different Naruto, like, I guess, skills. Because in Naruto, they have the Shadow Clone Jutsu. He does that. He does the replacing thing where, like, Naruto replaces himself with the log or whatever, with the leaf on top. Like, he does all of it. I haven't watched Naruto in a very long time, but it was really fun to see all those references again. But Robin talks about how the red poneglyph actually has a path to somewhere, and Inuyasha says it's a road poneglyph, and that's actually a guide to the end of the Grand Line, meaning that it goes to the island of Raftel, and that there are 4 red poneglyphs, and if you put them all in, like, you know, on the map, right in the middle of the square is where the island of Raftel is, which is so fascinating. I really, really love it. I love all the lore that we have. I love that we finally have a path forward through this series because I had zero idea what the overarching story is when it comes to Luffy becoming king of the pirates. And it's really nice to see all of this information come out now because there's a lot of sort of things that we don't know about at all. For most of this series, all we know is that we just know that Luffy wants to be king of the pirates. And we don't know exactly what that means, to become king of the pirates. And we finally know what that means, which is getting all 4 of those poneglyphs and finding the island. And then, so Luffy is really ecstatic about this. And it's revealed that the last poneglyph is actually missing. 3 of them are found, and 2 of them are controlled by Big Mom, and the other one is controlled by Kaido, which is like, oh my god, now they have to fight all of the Yonko in order to become king of the pirates. That makes total sense. I theorized for the longest time that Luffy would have to defeat all 4 of the Yonko, and he says it, I think in Marineford or somewhere. But he talks about how he wants to take down all of the Yonko, even if he has to fight Shanks. He doesn't want to fight Shanks, but he will in order to become king of the pirates. So that's really, really like major information that we learned. But Robin is being targeted because she's the only one who can read these, as we already know. And she says she has strong allies, which I assume is going to be Dragon and the Revolutionary Army, is sort of my prediction with that. And Neko reveals that the poneglyphs are actually made in Wano, but specifically the Kazuki family, which... that blew my mind open. I had no idea that these were even created. I just thought they were... I don't know, magical items. I don't know. I thought it was like a MacGuffin, like in Wheel of Time, like Calendar or something. Like a magically infused weapon. But it's not. These were made by the Kazuki family, which Kinemon, Momo, and Kanjiro and Raizo are all a part of. But we hear that Momo's dad, Odin, was executed by the Shogun at Wano. And that Kaido and his pirates are still at Wano and in control. So that's really, really interesting. I can't wait to see what comes of that. Kaido is trying to get info on what happened with Odin when he went to Raftel with Gold Roger. That blew my mind, getting all that information about Odin and being part of Gold Roger's crew. Like, that was just fucking awesome. And then he went with Gold Roger to Raftel and saw the world's big secret, which we don't know. We're not going to know that till the last chapter, probably. But he was there along with Rayleigh. Rayleigh we haven't seen in a very long time. I hope he shows up soon. But I just love that. And Odin's final words before being executed was to open up Wano because it's been closed off to the world. And we hear that Kinemon is gathering dissidents, but there's too many people in the country, so it's a really hard task for him. Kinemon asks Luffy if he'll join, and Nami is like, let's, negotiate, and Luffy is like, no, I'm not gonna join. And I was like, what? It's like, why is Luffy acting this way? And we see a flashback with Momo about his mom being killed and then running into Kaido. So he wails out loud and says he wants to bring down Kaido and has a very emotional speech that he tells to Luffy, and he says that the allies, along with Law's crew and Mink, and the Mink tribe, and that he wants Luffy's help, and Luffy is like, yes, like, we're all friends, we will help you. And I just love that. I love just the entire story. It's just so much fun. I love One Piece. It's my happy place. But out of nowhere, Captain Jack appears on the water just below Zoe, and he's headed over, and Sheep's head is knocked out with a note that Wiseau isn't on the elephant, and that Captain Jack and Sheep's head is basically just going to try and kill Zumesha now. Neko and Luffy talk about Shanks, and Neko knows him because he and Inuyasha on Gold Roger's crew, and even Whitebeard's. Like, what the fuck? Like, this is so hype. Like, I really, really love, like, all this information. Like, it's really filling out the information and the world. And it's just so much fun. Kinemon says he and the other samurai worked hard not to let Odin join and leave the country again during this time because he was just so, like, wrapped up in adventure and he needed to stay home and rule, and, like, all this different stuff was happening. So the first time that you go to Raftel, you have to start all over. All of the poneglyphs get sort of tossed to the wind, and they have to relocate it, find the island again. And Crocus, the ship doctor, who was with Laboon way back in the day, I think Jaya arc, he was actually a part of Roger's crew, which I somewhat remember. That's not a shock. But what's a shock is that he knew everything, that he knows all of this information, and he didn't share any of it. So that's really interesting. I hope we see him again, and that he will be more open-minded to telling everyone what is going on. But Neko says that they have someone to see, and it ends up being Mako the Phoenix, which is a lot of fun. We hear about the Grudge War, which is the Whitebeard remnants versus Blackbeard, and Mako suffered a big defeat. So that's how Blackbeard became a Yonko. And so Luffy splits up from everyone else And Kinemon will go to Wano while Neko goes to Mako. And they have a big banquet for Rizo, and Luffy, Nami, and Chopper Brook go together while Robin goes to Wano in order to study the poneglyph. Zumesha starts crying, and the island starts to fall down. Everyone's like getting tilted and falling downwards. It's really interesting. It's really fun. And Jack is shooting the elephant's leg with cannonballs. Luffy and Momo hears a voice of someone, presumably Zumesha, asking for orders, which is similar to when Gold Roger heard a voice near Fishman Island. I did remember that. Momo figures out that Zumesha is being attacked by Jack, and that the voice is Zumesha, so I was right while I was watching it. Zumesha says a long time ago it committed a crime, and all he's allowed to do is walk. What? 1,000 years ago, he was doomed to walk the rest of his life for 1,000 years? Like, what's going on with this guy? But Momo shouts to attack the pirates, and probably the funniest sequence I've ever seen, Zumesha just takes his trunk, goes that way, and just bam, just knocks the shit out of them, and they go flying miles away. It's so fun. I really, really enjoyed it. We see a snowy land at the end of the arc with a phone call, and they say to Kaido that contact with Jack has disappeared, which is not good. Kaido may be really pissed off by that. Neko wants to ask Zumesha where it's rocking to, and Momo wants to talk to him, and it's at this time that everyone splits into 4 groups, with Luffy... Okay, so... they split into 4 groups. I didn't write down what all the groups were, but I did say that one group is going to Wano, one's going to Mako. Luffy and a few other people are going to Whole Cake Island to rescue Sanji. But Luffy finds Peckham's in the destroyed house and reveals he's a turtle fruit user. So he has a shell made of diamond, so he survived the gunshots from Beige, which I'm really happy he did, because I didn't want Peckham's to die. I think he's a really fascinating character. And Usopp and Frankie give Nami a new climate baton, which looks really cool. She shoves out a bunch of black bubbles that have lightning in them, which comes in the arc later. In Whole Cake Island, I mean. So everyone gets into the groups and they head off. And we get one final scene with Vivi from Alabasta, way back in the day, if you remember. And she is in a good mood because she's finally headed back to sea. So I don't know what that's all about, but I love this arc. That goes without saying. I think it's a 9 out of 10, easily. It had so much lore, and as short as it is, all of it was really fascinating. I just loved getting all of it. Like, I finally feel as if I know where this series is headed. And I love that feeling. Because we're about 800 episodes, or not episodes, but chapters in. And I don't really have any idea. I had no idea for the longest time where we were headed. I had ideas, but it's so nice to have a confirmation now that we are headed to a location called Raftel in order for Luffy to become King of the Pirates. Whew, okay, I am out of breath. I have been going through this so fast, and I love this. I love the series, and I can't wait to talk about Whole Cake Island. And I want to thank everyone for watching this, if you're still watching, and to leave a comment below if you want to. And I just am so excited to talk about Whole Cake Island. There's so much to talk about. But thank you all so much for watching, and please have a great rest of the day.